Ooh, expired ham. Oh, this time I've gone too far. No one will fall for...
Woohoo! Cheap meat!
Abhi ki bar, Trump, Sarkar.
I look forward to working with Prime Minister Modi.
We love the Hindus. We love India.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Announced the costume, saying it targets South Asians, calling it racist and unacceptable. One of those groups is the National Council of Canadian Muslims.
Headlines like this one, published in The Sun and based on a survey widely denounced as deliberately skewed, don't help.
Come on. Hot, sicker than your average. Pop a twist cabbage off instinct. Niggas don't think shit stink.
So, there are two things you notice when you look at me. I'm a little chubby, and I'm brown. Both of which I was reminded by my childhood bully and also crush, Lindsay Miller. No, literally, I went up to talk to her, and she said, "Don't talk to me. You look like a literal ball of shit." Anyways, this video is not about my childhood trauma, but about the unique perspective that Asian Americans bring to the table. They kind of grew up living two separate lives they don't really fit into. For example, when I'm at home, I'm a completely different person than when I was at school. At home, I ate Indian food, watched Indian movies, listened to Indian music, and stuck with cultural values passed down by my parents. At school, I ate Lunchables, watched Die Hard, listened to terrible mumble rap, and screwed around with my friends. But I wasn't any more comfortable in one setting than another. In fact, I was very content with being someone that had two very different outlooks on the world. And I felt blessed to have both of those point of views that were very unique to me.
Hey! Shut up!
This is boring.
Hi, I'm Rose.
I'm Sabrine.
I live in Longmeadow, Massachusetts.
I'm from Westchester, New York.
And my parents are from Kerala, India.
My mom is from Calcutta in India, and my dad is from Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Was there ever a cultural difference between you or your friends, or with anyone really, that made you feel alienated in a certain way?
Most of my childhood, especially transitioning from elementary school into middle school.
In preschool, I remember there was this one kid who literally told me, like, you cannot play with me because you are brown.
I was going through my own kind of process of self-discovery and trying to understand like where I fit in, both in school, just in the grander scheme of things.
I was too young to understand why that was like a bad thing, or if that even was a bad thing. But it just made me feel really ostracized, and that just made me feel so upset. Like, I remember crying immediately afterwards and not really being sure what I could even do about that, because there is nothing you can do about your skin color.
Up until very recently, I just could not really accept or be content with my darker complexion, and I felt like it was just kind of keeping me from, making these type of friendships and like really fitting in. And to the extent to which I would go to my mom's like makeup bag and take her foundation and actually like put it all over my face, try to make my skin look a little lighter. So those are the extents I actually went to, and that's when I started to realize, like, this is who I am. I can't change it. And over the years where I've matured, I feel like I've not only just accepted it, but grown to be, happy with it, because this is who I am and I'm proud of it.
You talk about like not being able to date. Any other small things that really got it to you, like not being able to go to prom or something like that, like, or not being able to date anyone outside your race or religion? Like, how did those make you feel? Like, how do you feel after hearing that from your parents and comparing with your peers?
That's actually really hits home, because especially during my senior year and honestly even throughout middle school, I really struggled with accepting this whole idea of not dating. So my parents are extremely strict about that.
Also, like, if you happen to be like gay or bi or anything, that's not even a thing. Like, you can't really express that feeling at all to your parents. Your parents would definitely not appreciate that, and that was always frustrating, especially when you like try to figure out what your sexuality even is. And on top of that being like, I'm from a brown home and that's not accepted.
They kind of always saw dating as being like something that needs to be worthwhile and like something that needs to have like this end goal. It can't just be like, you know, oh, I like him, he likes me.
How do you feel when you're going back to your parents' home, like where they're from? Like, how do you feel when you go back? How do people treat you there?
Yeah, there's a huge divide again when I go back to India. I go back actually really frequently. We go back at least once a year.
We try to go back at least every year to mainly Bangladesh. That's where most of my family is.
Our parents did it with the intention of like having us relate more to our culture, but I think that just made it worse in a way. Like, there's just so much that makes you feel like you don't match up to the standards of an Indian, well, in my case, an Indian woman.
When I'm there, I feel like, you know, everyone looks like me and there's like this sense of like belonging and familiarity. And, you know, with that being said, that's only the physical aspects. You know, when I still go back, I am reminded that, you know, I'm not from here. I'm an American. I've been raised with different values.
And I guess all my questions kind of boil down to this, but do you ever feel that you're not part of the American culture or your Indian identity? Do you ever feel like you're in a middle place?
No, I've found that over time that this middle space that you speak of is kind of like the melting pot for me, because I've taken like aspects of my American culture, which I love and I'm very proud of, and kind of blended it actually with a lot of the values and things that I've learned from my parents and like back in Bangladesh and India, to create like a person who loves both kind of aspects of my cultures.
Yeah, it's really easy to fall into that in the middle land where you're not really sure where your identity even comes from. Like, a lot of me will always identify with being an Indian woman, but also a lot of me will be the girl who was born and brought up here.
And that's been, honestly speaking, very like tiring, and it's been a lot, and it's been taken a lot of time to really come to terms with the fact that like I'm not just American, I'm not just brown, you know, I'm a brown American.
Okay, I think I know what you're thinking. When we're looking at the scale of racism towards brown people is definitely on the lower end when compared to everything else going on in the world. But this doesn't change the fact that we have an incredibly different perspective. The point of this video is not to solve racism, but to show an increasingly ignored point of view in the clusterfuck that is America.
कुछ ना कहो, कुछ भी ना कहो, कुछ ना